What is the shadow? The shadow was a term pioneered into Western psychology and psychiatry by the legendary Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. And Jung used the term, the shadow, to describe the parts of the unconscious mind that we have rejected, denied, or disowned. He described the shadow as the dark side of the human psyche, but crucially, not dark meaning evil, bad, or malign. Dark meaning yet to be illuminated. So the shadow is made up of all the parts of ourselves that we hide from others. Now, when you think about the kind of stuff that we hide from others, most people start to think about their dark shadow traits. They might think about their prejudice, their trauma, their fear, their wounds, their unlovable parts, or things about themselves that they deem to be unlovable at least. And of course, the shadow does contain some of that stuff. But the shadow contains way more overtly golden, beneficial traits. And this is what's called sometimes the positive shadow, or as I like to call it, the golden shadow. So the golden shadow are the parts of the shadow which you still hide from others, but they're made up of your hidden talents. Maybe you hide your spiritual side from your friends or family for fear of being labeled too woo-woo. Maybe you hide elements of your genuine sexuality for fear of being rejected from the tribe. So much of the shadow is not dark. It is pure gold. And actually, as Carl Jung himself once said, the shadow is 90% pure gold. So to do the shadow work, we turn inwards and we look at that hidden gold within us, which we are suppressing, rejecting, or not fully expressing to the world around us. So although shadow work may sound quite scary, in fact, it's incredibly joyful. It's about looking at yourself and going, what hidden talents do I hide from others? What secret passions am I really into, but I don't fully express? What elements of my natural spirituality do I not fully offer the world? So shadow work is about going into the gold, manifesting your reality into existence by being your truly, radically, beautifully authentic self. What is shadow work? Shadow work is the process of making conscious the unconscious, unseen, and yet uncovered aspects that reside within our shadow side. What does that actually look like? It looks like a series of meditations, exercises, contemplations, and self-inquiry methods that ask us to look at the parts of ourselves that we hide from others and to find the gold that lies within. The shadow work that I advise people to do through my books and workshops is really practical stuff. It starts with answering a set of questions. What am I most afraid of? What am I most ashamed of? What secret talents do I hide from others? How would I spend my life if I didn't have to work for money? Questions that allow us to gain some insight into the parts of ourselves we don't usually look at. Then we start looking at our childhood and seeing how our experiences from childhood, both positive and negative, have impacted the way we are today. Then we start looking at sex, death, and our ancestors. We look at epigenetic trauma and how that's affected our ancestral line and the way we show up in the world today. We look at our sexual shadow and how the story of our sexuality has informed who we are. And we do a practice taken from Mexican shamanism that helps clean the slate of our sexual story, allowing us to show up more fully and completely and authentically in our sexual relationships. We also look at death, the ultimate shadow for many people. We look at our fear of our own mortality and how if we integrate death anxiety, then we have less fear around the mini deaths that we experience every day. The death of a relationship, the death of a career, the death of who we thought we were before we started out on this journey. The way I teach shadow work is highly practical. It's not about theory. It's about doing.